Well, hello everyone. Nick, Brandon, and Barrett here, also known as Amongst Friends podcast. We got a really special, fun episode we've been looking forward to. We are talking about Final Fantasy VII. We got a lot of different topics on it, so we're gonna be chatting about that and the state of play for Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth happened earlier, so we've got some fresh thoughts on that. So yeah, guys, where do you want to start? I know. Oh, also, Brandon, I know you finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, so definitely want to get your thoughts on that. I'm good to start with whatever. I'm like super hyped right now, so
We can start with that.
whatever y'all want. All right, cool.
I mean, so I've really loved it, and I'm so much to the point where I'm interested in the rest of the series. But yeah, I'm just I guess I'm kind of curious what you guys got out of the ending. Um, I don't know how different it is from the original. So um, I mean, I was telling Barrett the other day, so far though, it's been one of those games where all of the character. I don't have a single complaint where they're characters, story, nothing. But I really loved it. I will say though I played most of the game on normal and made it all the way to the end and got so pissed off with like killing those whispers at the very end and then
Yeah.
dying and then having to do it all over again. It's the only time I like changed the difficulty. And I made it so close to the end that I don't even feel any shame about it.
It's a Kingdom Hearts situation, but you actually were able to change the difficulty. Go
Yeah.
have to go through all the cinematic shit just to get to back to the point you were in.
Yeah.
That's an
Um,
intense fight though.
and then
It is.
also played the Yuffie missions too. And actually, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the entire game, but just that ending with Yuffie, probably my favorite like single section of the entire package so far. Um, between between just her moveset and how that works like live instead of in a turn-based setting, and also the villains they kind of brought in at the end, which I did a little bit of research on that this morning. So I I don't know if you've ever played the Yuffie missions, Nick, but I know Barrett didn't finish them. Um,
Yeah.
but a little background on that we can get to in a little bit. But I guess I'm curious like how much of what the ending was to that game was similar to the original. I know the whispers were added as a way to kind of keep everything on track as much as it could be, but that was actually like in a way it's a little meta to the story. But I mean, what was different from your opinions, your perspectives?
Um, well, for one, the whole interaction with Sephiroth is very different because believe in the original when you're leaving Shinra Tower, there's not an interaction. Like there's no, it's leaving Midgar pretty much from there. There's not like a huge Sephiroth fight. There's an interaction like the way Sephiroth isn't as in seven for the entire first half of the game. You don't see him too much, and then um, so in this it's like Cloud is more haunted by Sephiroth. Um, the I mean the whole motorcycle guy was added, the motorcycle fight guy. Um, but as far as the ending, I mean it's very different because it alludes to like Aerith has a lot more of an idea of, she has like this premonition that things are going on, whereas her character isn't really like that in the original at all. She seems to know more than she lets on, and probably has to do with her connection to the world. But she seems to like her, and I don't know really. I'm getting mixed up with some of the parts, but the biggest change from this portion of the game is definitely the Sephiroth encounter at the end, and how, like, you don't even see Sephiroth for the first time until basically, I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right though. Like the amount of Sephiroth in the game, right? If the remake game is disc one of the original, um, I I agree with you. I think Sephiroth might have been mentioned in
Yeah,
that
he's
first disc, but I don't remember seeing him as a character. So I think like Brandon, if your question is what is our take on the or what's my take on the ending having played the original? I think what was really cool about remake is that um, it's almost not almost it's quite literally that Sephiroth is trying to rush the final ending of the original game to happen in that first third of the story, which is pretty was pretty cool and jarring for me. Like playing the game, I was like, oh man, he's trying to get that final battle that you work up through 3 discs in the original to happen. So like that being said,
yeah.
that the final battle that you played is not as big as the original game. Like the stakes are a lot higher and a lot like for the whole world, and what you're fighting is a lot bigger. Um, but yeah, so that was cool that they did that, but it was definitely like I was playing from the perspective of Cloud, thinking like, oh man, he has no idea that like he had 2 full more discs of game to prepare for this fight and confrontation with Sephiroth. So I liked it. I didn't think there was any problem with it. Like, I thought it was a cool take on it, but it certainly impacts like the narrative for the rest of the game, which we've talked a lot about. And we'll talk a lot about in this episode. But I think the biggest, back to kind of what Barrett was saying, the biggest difference for me is like what I remember about that point of the original game was they basically got out of the city, right? Like a lot of the stuff was happening with that government or whatever of Midgar, Soldier and whatever else and Shinra Company. Like all that was happening. They kind of made it a lot more dramatic and added a lot more fights and stuff.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that was similar. But all I remembered from that point was, yeah, they got out of the city and then the game opens up. So they
Yep.
basically added a lot more, I'm trying to think of the right word for it, but a lot more scale to that and tried to bring in Sephiroth and everything earlier into the story and stuff. So that was a difference for me. So
There's
yeah,
like a point in the original where you walk into President Shinra's office and he's just impaled by Sephiroth's sword. Like, you
that's
find him
right.
like that rather than like um the whole dramatic part of him hanging off the roof, and you find him and like Barrett saves him. It's like they did more to add depth for some of the characters, because like seeing Barrett kind of like literally, you know, save the person, like his most hated person ever. Um,
Yeah.
and then they still let Sephiroth do the work, but it just, he's not as present. It seems like there's the Sephiroth is like almost like traveling through time to
Yeah,
manipulate Cloud into um, changing his destiny.
Yeah. And
Is
that.
like, so it's, that's the meta part of it, where they're like, it seems like the original Final Fantasy VII is its own timeline,
Yeah.
and this Sephiroth is manipulating that timeline, and Aerith seems to be aware that like something's off, and she can kind of like, she's more in tune with what's going on, but she's not telling anyone, which is just supposed to let kind of lead the player to think like, okay, she knows something more so that she did the first time around, which will play a lot into things. But um, the whole thing. There's also the ending shows a lot of it's scenes you'll see in Crisis Core play out one way, but they're they're almost extended at the end of 7, and kind of alludes to like, I mean, Zach's still alive. Maybe this is a different, an alternate time. I don't know. I really don't understand that part. Like maybe like because at the end of the game there's the whispers and they like surround Shinra or whatever. Like maybe they like transport things to different times or swap. I don't really understand that part of it, but like it's definitely enough to make me be like, holy shit! Like they might give us a whole what if story. Like what if? But I also think that there's a potential that Cloud or Zach and Cloud, because Zach's still carrying Cloud through town, which we'll talk about as we go into the trailer. But like, it even shows a little bit more of that where Zach's carrying Cloud through town. It's like, okay, like how? I don't know. I don't know. Sorry,
You
I'm gonna
know,
trail off on that because my brain is racked from just the
this
like, where is this going?
So,
so
so with
yeah, go
Sephiroth,
ahead,
like
Brandon.
he's with Sephiroth, he's trying to change destiny, but is that something he knew in the original?
Not
That
not I didn't get an impression that he knew how things in the original game were going to go. The impression, and I was just going to say this to add on to what Barrett was saying was playing it. There's no like absolute confirmation of this, I don't think, but you get the impression that the events. Okay, I'm going to say this. Okay, within the story of Remake, not the original, it's treating the way Sephiroth's approaching things with Cloud seems to indicate that the events of the original game happened, and
mhm.
Sephiroth experienced them and was there for him. Like he witnessed the entire game, his demise. Sorry, spoiler alert. Bad guy loses. Um, but it's almost as if he experienced that. He knows the events of the original game, and he's gone, like you said, back in time or something. And now he's like, okay, I'm going to change how this goes because that didn't work out in my favor. That's the impression you get. I
It
don't
it
know if that.
it definitely seems like in
Yeah, go ahead.
remake. It definitely seems like in remake that he knows,
Yeah,
that what his fate is. Like I said, I just wasn't sure how much of that was.
in the
I
original.
yeah,
That's
I know
not.
the whispers and everything are new, so they enter the portal and he tells them all that once you go through here, there's no going back, and so it's like
Mm-hmm.
he knows it's being changed, and to I guess to add to that, as you're killing each of the whispers, you see a premonition of the future. So and from what I understood, each of those premonitions are like what actually happened in the original. So I'm kind of curious if that's actually you actually killing that potential future. Like when you killed that whisper, you stopped that thing that happened in the original game from even happening in this timeline. I'm kind of curious if they're going that way.
It could. I think that's how they'll keep 7 fresh and new and us not knowing what's going on if we're like literally changing the timeline. And the whispers are just basically the fate's way of saying no, it has to stay this way. Like, and it's fighting you to keep you from changing destiny. And the whole end of that game, you're playing into Sephiroth's like whole scheme of no, we're gonna change the future. Um,
And I've also
I
yeah,
ta-
think
I've also seen talk of like the I don't know how they would do it with there being three games, but I've also seen talk of they're doing like a Sophie's Choice kind of situation where it's like, okay, those were the potential timelines of everything, and you have the chance to change it in the game, but you could also go down the path of like the exact original story.
Are you talking about for
Interesting
part
idea.
3?
No, even well, I mean for 2 or 3.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, let me interrupt this conversation real quick. Hey, anyone in the chat, if there are any audio issues or anything, let us know. I forgot to mention that earlier. I think it's fine, but just wanted to say that. But yeah, Brandon, that's a cool thought. I think one thing, like first thing comes to mind is they've already changed so much, right? Not in a way that makes it like not Final Fantasy VII or anything like that in the sense of comparing it to the original, but just in the sense of like this isn't going to go the same way. Like it can't. Like they've kind of made some changes and added some things that go like, okay, yeah, there was a big boss fight with Sephiroth. They're going to approach this entire strategy different, or they should. Um, that being said, I think it would be really curious if they added some like decision moments. Like I'm hoping they do that let you possibly have an influence on what that third game of the remake um, will be. But something else I was thinking is I don't not to split hairs with it, but I think the events of the original game will always have had happened. I don't think it's erasing them or changing them. I think like you said, it's a timeline. This is a way things could have gone, but and maybe we'll see even more of that. Maybe we'll see like the game, show what some of those other eventualities could have been um, for the game. And I actually have like some weird thoughts about like maybe how does this affect Advent Children? Like that movie, which I won't get into spoilers on, but part of me looks at it and goes, was that a direct sequel to the original game, or was that a possible future, with this new setup? Like, is it going to make it? I guess what I'm trying to say is, will the trilogy of remakes make us look at everything about the Final Fantasy games and spin-offs differently after it's concluded? And that's kind of exciting to me to go, like, oh my God, they knew this the whole time, and these are all different realities or something in this universe. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean to add to that, I mean you mentioned the spin-offs, and like I said, I know you haven't finished the Yuffie missions, Barrett, but the one thing about that that stands out is like I was kind of holding back on I was kind of holding back on telling you what the final boss was because I didn't want to necessarily spoil anything. But then I was doing some research for it today, and the final boss is actually one of the bosses that's in Dirge of Cerberus,
Oh,
which
cool.
takes place after 7. So
Hmm.
the fact that it shows up, the fact that it shows up when it does, leads me to believe that they're kind of blending that in. Like they
That's
let,
what I think they might do with even Advent Children. I think that could play a lot into part 3,
it's
given how much they're putting, how much of a chunk of the game that reunion's going to be.
yeah,
Because they said that it's going to go from leaving Midgar to the Forgotten Capital, and that definitely leaves a smaller portion of the game left. So there's a lot they're going to have to do later, and with as much as I mean, they're even, I mean, we're going to see it in theaters with Advent Children, with part of the promotion for this game, and the fact that it's available is like they're including everything. So it makes me think that they're considering everything whenever
yeah,
making this. And even if it is altering the timeline or altering things like they did with, like they're doing with Crisis Core and 7, like things are different, but it's still respective of the story. Like it's,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like they're since they're probably not going to go down the route of those spin-offs, so they're just going to go ahead and include it like with this story. I mean, obviously they did the remaster of Crisis Core, but now we see that in this timeline Zack lives, and at the end of Intergrade, like I said, you face Nero, which is like um, one of the one of the members of Deep Ground, which I don't know if you how much you know about Deep Ground, but like that's down where you near the end of remake where you go down and face like the failed test subjects. Like they were some of the test subjects that actually lived, and there's like 7 or 8 of them that are bosses in Dirge of Cerberus. And yeah, I'm kind of curious how that fits in the timeline because I know that there's like 2 chapters in the Yuffie story, and the first chapter is for the before the plate drops. The
Yeah.
second part's after. I just don't know exactly when. Um, but yeah,
Really
and
wish I'd completed that DLC.
it's really good.
It's
Like I
not long.
said, you're not far from the
Yeah.
end of it either. And then when
Yeah, I
you
just need to pick it back up.
when you do beat it, it unlocks a simulate like another battle for the simulator, and it's one of the other members of Deep Ground. And in the original story of Dirge of Cerberus, that member that you fight in the battle simulator, he tries to like overthrow Deep Ground at one point, and he gets infected with a virus. And when as he's trying to like leave his consciousness in like the network, and actually comes across Dr. Hojo's like after he dies, it's like his consciousness is in the network, and like they both combine, and like Hojo takes over that guy's body. And I'm like I said, that's from a spin-off game, and I'm kind of curious how it seems like they're going to try to weave that in some ways. Um, but
They definitely could. I want to
Well, I
see how
think there's also
they would do it, but like, I mean, it's they're. I don't know. I definitely think it's likely. Go ahead, Nick.
I was gonna say I think there's a lot of potential, not just for them to weave in to a lot of stuff that's already been out there over the past, I don't know, 20 something years now. I don't know. I don't know when the game originally came out. Um, but I don't think they're ever going to stop investing into the Final Fantasy VII universe, right? So I think like with all of this new content, these characters that they're introducing, um, or maybe not introducing, but they're giving them more story and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised to see more spin-offs down the road. I mean, Final Fantasy VII, y'all know this. Everybody knows this. It's like it's so sacred and so in such a beloved world that I think I think part of it is trying to figure out, okay, how does this tie into what's out there? But then like, what else is Square Enix working on, right? To put more content out there that doesn't exist. So not everything that's their show that they're adding and stuff may tie in, but it could be that we're going to see more stuff down the line. But that makes me want to ask you, Brandon. Like, obviously, everyone talks about Final Fantasy VII. Like we talk about it. I'm so glad you finally played the game. But now that you've played it, does it make sense like why it's so special to so many people?
yeah,
In
definitely.
what doesn't make sense? Like because I'm curious if there's things about like how sacred is people are like it's not that good here, it's not good that good here or there.
Um, no, it definitely makes sense at least for 7. I can't speak for any of the rest because
Oh
honestly,
right,
I
yeah.
don't hear as much talk about the rest either. Um, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, the only thing that yeah, there's there's not much that doesn't make sense on that note.
Like what did you? I guess what I'm asking is like what did you think was great about it then? You know, everything because I mean that's kind of my perspective is like
Honestly, yeah,
yeah.
there's not one single thing that I could point out. Like I said, there wasn't a single character that I really had issues with. Um, Everything fit into the story properly, and it's just a matter of seeing how they all come together later.
I think it's probably harder. I mean, you played a full game, but it's not the full story.
Yeah.
And the difference is like you don't already know where the story's going, where me and Nick have an idea of what's supposed to happen, but there's no telling that that's even going to happen. And it would be cool if they could change things, and it seems like an opportunity to change things. Um, and it's just really, I like being in that spot of like really appreciating the original. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and being able to, what a time to be alive, where we're going to get to see like this play out in a cinematic masterpiece and change the course of events that were really sad, but I mean, they can still give moments the same weight without doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, Chemical Witness said in the chat, I vote you play 9 and 16 next. I think you got plans to play 16 at some point in the near
Yeah,
future.
for sure.
Um,
I plan to play
but
everything, or at least of what I can, but I know that's going to take
I believe you
some
too.
time. I know it's going to take some time, but
I mean, as fast as he got through 7, it seems like you
That's what
flew
I'm
through that
saying.
game, dude. Like,
Dude, anybody
it
else was like,
amazes me. I'm embarrassed how
anybody
long
else
it
said
took me
it.
to get through it.
Yeah. Oh, me too. It took me like a year,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, exactly.
but if anybody else said I'm gonna probably play all the Final Fantasies, I'd be like, bullshit.
Yeah,
No, you're not.
I,
I totally believe Brandon will
I
right.
systematically just tear through them one at a time. It's amazing too to me, just to credit you, Brandon, like how much of the lore. Like I'm sitting here like, what the hell's he talking about? Like I don't know some of these characters you mentioned and stuff like that. I'm like, damn,
hey,
you're become a
when
lore expert within like a month of
when I
playing
get
Well,
the
into
game.
well, you're
something,
So
latching onto
awesome.
the Dirge of Cerberus story too. Like that's, I mean, that's not a direction that I think in Final Fantasy, because I didn't beat that one. So like I don't, like he's saying, like I don't recognize the character names. I know that like Hojo did a lot of
Yeah.
uh there were a lot of science experiments using like the Genova cells and stuff, but I don't know, like it's cool to knowing there's a whole like system that led to, and a but I'm like, I don't know, Vincent's going to be really cool bringing into it,
Oh,
and whenever I'm excited
yes.
for you to learn about who he is and how he plays into it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. When I get into something, like I want to know everything about it. I try not to spoil like too much, but some of that's unavoidable, especially as I mean, as long as some of these games have been out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I
Mhm.
can't
Oh,
I can't guarantee that I'll finish everything, but I definitely plan on playing them. Um,
I think you'll get pretty far. Hey, just thought of this. What did you think when Red 13 showed up? Like okay, not just showed up, but like once they like introduced that character and it's like a talking dog, wolf creature monster. Like I was playing remake and then he showed up and I was like, "Oh, it's Red 13." Right? And Barrett, you probably felt the same way, right? But
Oh, dude.
for a moment I was like as I was playing, I go, I wonder how someone feels who didn't play the original, right? Like, who is this dog and why can it talk? And why is it here? Um, so was he cool right off the bat to you, like it was to me, Brandon, when I played it when I was, 13 or something?
I
Or was there a moment where you were like, what the hell is this? Is this a character? Am I gonna play as this dog? Like, did you have any critical thoughts of that character?
I thought he was cool like the moment he came on
Okay,
screen,
cool.
and
Good.
I didn't expect him to talk. Um, but I did really want to play as him, and now that the
Yeah.
with Rebirth, I'm going to be able to. So I'm kind of curious how what his moveset's going to be like. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've liked him so far, and I like the voice actor too. Like I think the voice fits, and
Is immediately
there,
Yeah.
the coolest character in the entire thing.
especially
And
the
the
my
new
my
look
favorite.
gives, the high definition look just makes him be that much cooler.
Not only that, but like I think I was watching like bits and pieces of the state of play like like before my son's basketball game started, and some of it like during halftime. And I think like my favorite like still of like the whole thing was there's like one moment where Red's dressed up as one of the soldiers or like one of the henchmen,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
saw
just
that
like
too.
real Scooby Doo vibes on it.
Yes. Cloud's got his
Dude, he
totally
is.
obvious Buster Sword on his back.
Yeah, I loved it. I love the quirkiness too of it. Like it knows how to have fun. Those moments remind me of like an anime in the best way possible when you see just kind of a little bit goofy, dumb shit like that. It makes me love it more, even though it's absurd.
Yeah,
But go
go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say
Oh no, I'll
I,
just.
I,
You're good.
I
You're good. I'm gonna stop.
no, I just it the Red's introduction like wasn't too jarring to me just because of like the way they included Kate Sith in there, whereas like it just
Yeah.
flashes on screen and it because
Uh-huh.
there was a lot of this game where I think they kind of expected the player to know a lot about it going into it, so I think that was a little bit harder for a newer player just because like I said they it was I like the way they introduced Sephiroth in this game because it does feel like ominous the whole time, but but at the same time there's an aspect of it where it's like okay they kind of expect you to know who this is or where he came from.
Um,
Yeah. No, that's
Also,
cool.
something I thought of differences between the originals, the fates of um, Wedge, Biggs, and Jesse.
Yep. Good call out.
Um, so pretty sure they all die. I know that Biggs and Jesse die in the original in the whole like ta- going up the tower. Um, but they should like it. The difference in the end is it shows Biggs at the end, like in a like a doctor's bed. And then there's one moment where it shows like I think it shows like Jesse's like headband and some her gloves or something are on like a table. It like pans down from like a window to a table and like her stuff's there. So you think like is she dead? Um,
I hope not. She's one of my favorite characters, so
yeah,
Jesse.
I don't think she is. I mean I don't know where she's gonna be in the next part. I don't know how they're gonna play into it later, but if they're alive and maybe like Zach catches up with them because I think Zach's going to be in Midgar or in the maybe in the Midgar that they're in, and then Cloud and everyone else is going to be out. There's probably going to be two Clouds because that's what it looks like.
yeah, I'm kind of curious how that works because you know that section does show Zach walking into Midgar with Cloud,
Hmm. Hey, can you hold
and
my friend?
the way because I'm assuming
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I mean when Zach dies when he's supposed to is that kind of the same scene where he's surrounded by all those guards and
It's at that
does he
moment,
have
yeah.
Yeah.
is,
He stands off. I don't want to ruin the end of that game for you. I want you to experience it because it's very. It just needs to be seen. But
but I just
it
mean
does happen different.
is
It is
Cloud
in
with
that
him?
moment. Cloud is with him, and
Okay.
you notice how he's carrying him. It's like that a little before too.
So that's what I'm curious of is like where in the timeline this is because
5 years before. Oh, okay, sorry. Crisis Core is 5 years before 7.
because the way they did that scene is they were doing it as if they were passing each other, but obviously they weren't both there at the same time.
Right.
And I also don't know if it was because of that time jump or if it was initially when it showed that scene. Like I knew that Zach dies before I played it, but knowing that he lived through that sequence, there's I thought it might have initially I thought it might have been just like a red herring where it's like, okay, this is just showing an example of the ripple that them changing destiny caused. I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to carry forward into the next game. It just kind of
That's the question.
like the way they did that, and then they showing Biggs in the bed after it's implied that he dies, and
Hmm.
so it was kind of a more of a, well, did this really happen, or are they just showing how this other timeline went? And I w- and the other kind of, I guess, key moment there, I won't say key, but it might have been more of an Easter egg. But as Zach is walking through, there's like a bag of potato chips that like flies across the screen, and it's got stamp on
Yep.
it, but it's a different version of the
Yep.
one we've already seen in that game. So I was,
There could be a different avalanche in the game. It could be an alternate kind of
and if there
where
is,
Biggs lives and
yeah, and if there is, I mean, that would, there being two separate timelines there. We see in the trailer for the State of Play where Zach meets back up with Aerith. So they have to converge at some point. Is it some kind of like crossover, or yeah? I'm curious where all that is.
those are my biggest questions. Those are the
Yeah.
biggest questions I have. Everything else is, I mean, we'll figure it out as we go. I just want to know how Zach moving forward and back into Midgar is going to be at all. Um,
I didn't notice in any of the State of Play where he came up on the screen as a playable character. So I don't know if
you
I don't
did
know
or
if
didn't
I
notice?
didn't notice that.
Oh, I
Okay.
didn't either. Yeah.
I was trying to keep
Yeah.
an eye on like anytime they showed gameplay of like all the playable characters. Didn't
Mhm.
see him as one, but
They'd probably keep it under wraps really well if they did, because I'm
but
sure a lot of people want that. But
yeah.
it probably won't. It's not going to be with the main party. If he has a playable sequence, it's going to be, you know, it might be him and Cloud. It might be a little him dragging Cloud around. It might be him and whoever he meets
DLC.
up with. Some, um, but yeah.
Yeah. It could go
How
so many
far?
directions.
I know. How long have you played of Crisis Core? Like, how much of it have you gotten to?
I think I've done the first two chapters, and then I played a little bit of it today, but I was just doing the side missions. I didn't have time to
Yeah.
stream it or anything, so because I think I'm gonna try to do that, at least the chapter part of it. The chapters I'm gonna stream, but like any of the side content I'm gonna do on my own, because it seems like that's just there for like leveling.
Yeah, it's all like, like almost like this. It's the same room, just a little bit different over and over and over, and you do like simple kind of shit just to like get extra items and level up.
And I've liked it so far. It's been a little different going back to, yeah, like Chemical Witness just mentioned the ACM.
Activating combat mode. Yeah.
I
Yes.
I don't know if you caught any of the first chapter that I streamed, but like it was just the how many times I heard conflict resolved just became a joke, like an inside joke
It,
at one point.
it hypes me up, dude. I don't like the music in the battle music in that game just being like the heavy rock, like metal music.
Yeah,
The and how especially it'll be more fun. It'll be more combat will be a lot better whenever you start unlocking more on your little wheel. So like whenever you start
yeah,
building relationships with characters, you'll unlock more people. But it is a strange combat system. It's very like it's kind of jarring going in and out of it.
yeah. I've liked it so far, but like coming from Kingdom Hearts, I guess it's closer to Kingdom Hearts combat wise, because with the with seven, if you go into your menus, it slows down time so much that it almost comes to a stop. but it was a little jarring going back to that. Like every
Pace.
yeah, but overall I've liked it so far. The only thing I haven't cared too much for is just the like the random wheel going on in the left side of the screen. Just because I don't know how much of that I'm like supposed to be paying attention to, or if it's just all random. Um, but but yeah, I mean, I have liked it, and you can definitely tell that it was a PSP game just when you go into an area and I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, these dudes are just popping up through the floor.
If you here's a little secret I'll let you in on early. If you run, you can run the edges of areas and totally dodge combat. So if
Okay.
you don't want to get overwhelmed by combat, just run along the wall.
The only I haven't really been overwhelmed by it, but there are a few sequences where like you literally go into combat with like three or four enemies, and then you walk like 5 steps, and then another one pops up. And then to
Yeah.
one point where I was like, while I was playing, it's like, okay, let's see how far this next one goes. And then I
Yeah.
literally like 10 steps, and it pops another one. It's like, yep, that's about where I
Like
thought it would
walking
be.
through the grass in Pokemon. Um, so I mean, you guys want to talk about the trailer and like the reveals in general, like
Yeah.
initial thoughts on that first trailer and like what they've given us. Where do you guys want to go with it? Because
Now, when
it
you
looks like
say
my
first,
brain threw up on my paper of notes, so I can't wait to try and organize it.
when you say first trailer, you're talking about the trailer that premiered today, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay, gotcha,
today's first impressions from today.
gotcha. Yeah, no, let's do that. But Brandon, if you have more epiphanies about the original game, we can
Yeah.
jump
No,
in. But I really want to hear.
I kind of went through all of my
Um,
notes, and
cool.
even with the state of play, like obviously I don't know much of the story outside of that, so I don't really.
Cool.
From that it's more speculation than anything because I don't really know what to expect at this point.
You can just expect a really good game that is
Yeah.
going to tell a really awesome story. Like and it's gonna be emotional on so many levels.
Yeah.
I can tell.
But yeah, who wants to go first?
They're um well, I will.
Yeah.
As far as like I love that so there's a part where they're saying that we get to go revisit like Gungaga and Nibelheim and like each character's kind of hometowns to like I don't know, just maybe to revisit like popular locations or whatever. So like the going back to like everybody's hometowns or like kind of origin area is going to be exciting. Um, it's like they specifically mentioned Gungaga, and that's Zach's hometown. So it'll be cool to see like where we are in the timeline and like how it is there, like um, what little things they leave in that. Um, Getting to see Sid in the trailer was very exciting, and getting to see him like he looked good. Um, the game looks freaking huge. That I don't even like. The open world areas are already going to be so big, and especially with the amount of mini games that it looks like they're adding, like adding and fixing up old ones. I don't know. I'm just overwhelmed and hyped. Like it couldn't be here fast enough. I don't want to wait any longer at this point. Me and Nick have both been battling the urge to play this demo. Like,
I
Yeah.
started downloading it while I was there. Like I
50
went to the
gigs
store.
for a demo. I was like,
uh,
Thank you.
Heck, the whole
So,
the whole
Brandon, before I
first
share my
remake was
thoughts, I
90.
want to. Yeah, they're big. They're dense games, man. You
I
know.
mean, just saying the demo's like over half the size of what the full
Oh yeah,
remake was.
yeah. And the final game of Rebirth will be, I think, 150 gigs. I think is what I want to say. I sent, but I can't wait to play it. Well, we can circle back around to just some logistics that are fun to talk about the demo. But before I share my thoughts in response to Barrett's question about impressions of the trailer, Brandon, what were yours?
Um, honestly, I don't have many thoughts about it just yet because there's so much information to grasp. I'm honestly a little overwhelmed with some of the open world aspects of it because honestly, like, you know, part of my favorite, or I mean, just part of the part of the reason I like the remake so much is because it is so linear, but yet when they do have side missions, it's like it's tied to specific chapters. So it's like 1, 7, and 12 or whatever it is, but it's like those specific chapters is where you do all those side missions, and then it's like so then I knew I could like take a break and do those and then hammer through the story. And with this being more open world, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing because I do like the world building that they did in the first one, but I can already tell there's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
They at least gave. I like that they at least gave clarity on the side jobs not being missable though. Like they said something in the demonstration where they were like, all the side jobs will be there whenever you complete the game. Progressing the story is not going to affect any of that stuff. So it at least looks like it. I think they are saying like we know it's going to be a little overwhelming. There's going to be a lot. You can come back to it. um, but I definitely agree. The combat also like the all the combat synergy stuff. Just all
Lots of
the
layers.
different combinations of characters, doing different attacks. There was like Barrett charging up his gun, and then Aerith like using magic to like sling behind the shot and throw it harder or something. Like all that stuff is
Awesome.
just so
Oh,
cool.
it's so
So like the
awesome.
combat was really good in 7 Remake, but this just like seems like
Yeah.
we went from Kingdom Hearts 2 to Kingdom Hearts 3 where we've got, all the
Mhm.
Disney rides, all the cool like flashy attacks and stuff.
I'm curious, are those synergy attacks, do you think they're going to work in the same vein as what the limit break moves do, or is it going to be separate?
Well, there's
Great question.
in the if you look at the like the on the health bar and stuff, like where your
Mhm.
health is your MP and all that stuff, there's a
Yeah,
new
the HUD.
thing there that's like 5 vertical lines that fill up.
Hmm.
So maybe it's like a new charge up system where like you have so much of a charge and it's like another expendable kind of thing you can use during battle. Um, I would hope that they don't combine it with limit breaks because that should be separate.
Yeah, I agree. That's like offensive. I
Hmm.
really hope they don't mess with that. But I think I mean, every design decision they've made so far, there's not been one that I was like, oh, that sucks. Except getting hit while you're trying to cure yourself or something like that. But I don't know what can be done about that. They need that leaf deal from Kingdom Hearts 2, that prevents you from getting hurt while you're healing.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me so much as like when I get out of a fight and I heal up or something and then realize there's a bench just right around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, my impressions with that trailer. Well, I did feel overwhelmed. I think that's a running thing for it. And like the reason I felt overwhelmed by it was like, yeah, it's a lot of game to the point where I was like, looked at Brandy, my wife, and was like, we don't need like anything else to come out for like 3 months. Like
Maybe longer.
yeah, like it may be longer, especially if we jump into New Game Plus, and then especially if those jerks at Square Enix release some like DLC add-on that's hey, now there's a roguelike mode or some nonsense, that makes you go back into that's a good thing. But I was like, they've already said it's gonna probably be 100 hours of gameplay, and I will totally believe. And that's probably not even if you that's probably not counting if you want to level up to like 100 level 100 and max out everything. But I think that's the main reason it disturbs me. I'm like, okay, there are other games coming out pretty quickly. but this takes priority. So like at the end of the day, it's a good thing. But yeah, there's a lot, dude. I'm like, how many like I have no idea how many side quests there are, and there's the vehicles and there's the chocobos, and just the world looks super dense. Looks like everywhere you kind of got a Breath of the Wild feeling, and not that it's anywhere nearly as big as that, but when I just mean like when you're looking at the horizon, you can see these points of interest and stuff that make you just want to go explore. Um, I think overall, my impression, and I think I've said this to you, Barrett, but I was looking at it going like, oh, I've been really excited for this because I love Final Fantasy as a whole, and then I was really excited for it because I love Final Fantasy VII because I love Final Fantasy VII. But then I was watching it going like, wait a minute, this is like one of the best looking games I've ever seen. Like that, and that's where I like started getting like anxious levels of hype. I was like, visually, it's incredible. Like that we're playing this. This looks better than Advent Children, and so did the last game. Quite frankly, if you go back, not to make you like, oh no, about Advent Children, it still looks great, but it's amazing what they've been able to do visually. Then they showed the character relationships, and I was just like, oh my god, you could do the Mass Effect relationship building, like that's awesome, and that's going to unlock probably new levels of synergies and stuff. I was like, oh, I love that in RPGs. Like that's a little bit of Dragon Age too, in a way. But yeah, overall, I think I just looked at it and was like, this has everything I love about the type of game I love. Like action adventure, RPG, character progression, story, awesome cutscenes, amazing music. Like it's got it all. So yeah, that's what I walked away just being like, and it's gonna be like 100 hours long.
Dude, I'm not even
I'm glad
worried
for me
about.
that there's not a lot I'm excited about this year, other than like one or two like things. I'm glad this
Yeah,
is taking priority. Like,
it should. It absolutely should.
I mean, it would
And
take priority anyways, but there's nothing that's going to come in and try and outshine it, you know?
I don't think there is for me either. I mean, like not
And
I won't get into terror, but like Dragon's Dogma, like that was the one of the other games I was really excited about. But I'm like
pales
it
in
doesn't
comparison,
rank. It
bro.
just
Dude,
doesn't
Like, nah.
rank. So
I'm not even
yeah, that's how
thinking
I felt.
about the new games coming out. I've got a whole backlog of stuff I want to play,
Oh right.
and
Yeah.
That's fair.
and that's the thing is like with this, it's like I'm glad it's that big because I did like the first one, so I want more of that, and I'm going to play all of it. But yeah, it definitely
Big commitment, right? Like
yeah.
time commitment.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing that's like intimidating about it. It's like I'm going to want to do everything, and I know that's going to take a really long time, and so it's going to be taking time away from other things. First world problems, man.
Um,
Yeah.
I was also really excited about. Sorry, I've just got like I've got to look at like
Oh,
my
go.
like oh shit and this, but like the reveal of Valathor, the summon. It kind of looks like Phoenix and it shoots the lasers.
What was Valifor?
It looked like a updated version of Valathor from 10.
Oh man, that yeah. Go keep going.
It may
Sorry.
not have been. It could have been something, but like
Looked
there was
awesome
something
either
that
way.
looked so much like Valathor that I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Um, there was the OG character models that they showed where there's like a mini game that's like
Yeah,
so meta it's not even funny. Just
that was probably my
going
favorite mini game that popped up. I mean,
that and the
they all
Mario
look.
Kart. There was one that looked like Chocobo Kart. Like between those, I'm like, I can't. I have never been more excited for Final Fantasy mini games
They all look
because
pretty
they're usually
fun.
not the fun part of the game to me. It's like, okay, I got to get through the shit to like, progress, but I don't spend a lot of time in those things in the Final Fantasy games.
They all look pretty fun, except they just had to do a damn card game. Was that necessary?
They better make real versions of them. It better be a real thing. Yeah, that's something that Nine does. Is like there's a whole card game and you find cards for your deck, and it seemed like it was integrated into the game where you can like get more cards for your deck and build that. So like that's going to be a whole a whole thing. But things like that, hope they're not going to make them too mandatory. It's just going to be like a place where you can spend time. But like, it really seems like they've expanded the game so much by going into so much detail on all those mini games.
Well, hopefully
That's
it's
going to be
kind of
a
like
lot of fun.
hopefully it's like what Remake did, with at least with intermission, like the mini game that Yuffie had was Fort Condor, whereas kind of like I don't want to say tower defense, I don't, but essentially a tower defense where like you have like um you have like a ink well, so to speak, of
Hmm.
and each time you like put out like a different guard, or whether it was like defense or attack or whatever, like you'd have to wait for like a recharge to throw something else out. But the way they did the mini games with that, it's like you would face like a level of like three different level one characters, and then you'd move on to like two or three level two characters, and then one level three, and then one level four, where like there's a ladder, so to speak, and there might be a point at the end where like you can rematch any of those, but it essentially had a beginning and end, even though it was a mini game, and you could go back to play it anytime you want. Um, it did have like, okay, once you've completed this section, like you didn't really, it wasn't mandatory to keep on going.
The also it's got like they said it had 400 new music tracks. Like, could you imagine like the special edition vinyl that they released for this game?
Oh, I don't.
It's
$300.
it's gonna be like a book. Just flip through it.
Um, they mentioned that there's going to be more cutscenes, which I think is inevitable just because of how much that portion of the game covered originally. But man, those cutscenes, they took me back to that Final Fantasy greatness of cutscenes. And that's something that always been huge to the series. Where I was like, man, these look awesome. The emotion of the characters looks fantastic. Um, yeah.
I'm not really mad about that either, because there were definitely a few times in Remake where I was like, why couldn't have that been a cutscene? Like after you leave the like initially like after you leave the church with Aerith, and like you're just walking through that whole section, I'm like,
Hmm.
why couldn't have this been a cutscene?
Hmm.
Because there's like even with
Yeah.
the final boss with Sephiroth, like if you die at any point fighting the Whispers, like you restart and you've got to walk down these paths, but like
Yeah.
there's nothing that can happen if you like there's no enemies to face until you get to the Whisper. So I don't know. There was a lot of that where I don't know if they put it in there as just like a breather or like a break or something, but you do that too many times, it's like I just want to get through this. I don't want to keep wasting my time on this section that really isn't consequential. Those, I mean, and honestly, those are the only like real nitpicky like complaints I have about it. It's just
I
redundant
like them.
areas.
I get that. I get like you were talking about the Aerith part where Cloud's like they're going through the the slums
Yeah,
and climbing ladders and going through. But I think it provided so much good dialogue, and it's good to slow down for a minute with Aerith's character but still be engaged in a game, because I feel like it did a lot for her character in that moment. But like it's the awkwardness of Final Fantasy that they're still like trying to keep in there to keep it at its roots, because like the where like that moment something, it could have been a cutscene, but it's very Final Fantasy for you to have that it just felt like one of the things that's like at its core. Um, Kind of hard to explain, but like it just, I mean, you're gonna go through the same thing in Crisis Core. So I'm excited. You
And
get ready for
and
it.
I can agree with that. I think, and I guess to compound that a little bit, I guess just making it feel a little more fluid because like the way you progress through certain areas like that, you go to like the little arrow that's on the ground to direct you through that. And I think most modern games that do stuff like that, they make that area a little bit bigger. That way, like as soon as you get kind of close, it'll start that sequence. And with remake, like there were like some of them you had to get like the precise spot before that started. And so that was like a little frustrating because you'd walk towards one of those areas and it just wouldn't happen until you hit like the perfect spot. So I
I feel
can
like
I
it's
can
something
I can agree with what you said as far as like adding
it
in
had a
that
lot of
dialogue.
those.
Yeah,
That area had a lot of those. But I feel like it's also one of those things that still makes it feel like Final Fantasy.
yeah.
Like it could be updated and more modernized where those sections go a lot smoother. They could. I don't disagree that that would be something nice to do.
And
But like
the only reason
something
that
about the clunkiness of it still makes it feel like a 2D, almost like, or brand new 3D game where you're literally moving up and down and left and right on a screen that's literally just a photo and you can only walk, certain directions. Like something about it just makes it still feel like the original, but looking new rather than over. But I'm sure we're gonna get like a lot more smoothness with this second part as far as things like that. We're probably not gonna run into as much of the clunky. Hopefully they smooth those things out. But I liked it for at least the first one because I don't know, it kept some of the heart in or some of the original thing to it.
the only reason it really stood out was because you know before playing seven, played Kingdom Hearts, but before that I played God of War, and one of the like anytime I play a newer game, like I try to go through the accessibility features and like see like what I can make useful because I know they're there for people with disabilities and stuff that can't do specific parts of the game, but they're also like just I guess like quality of life features that they kind of add in my opinion where there's a lot of sequences in God of War where you get to a ledge or like a wall and you have to press X to go through that sequence. And one of the accessibility features in that game was just to remove that. To like if you just got to that area and kept pressing forward with the thumbstick, like you didn't have to press X. And there's so many of those areas where it's like it's not a matter of like living or dying if I don't press that button. Like so I don't really need to just keep doing that. So like I turn that feature on and it does have wider area for like those kind of those sequences like start, and that's probably the only reason it really stood out because I went from one game that done that really well to one that still felt a little clunky.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably something like I've noticed with like really big games that are trying to do all these different things and have that obviously take a huge team of people to make. It probably takes 200-300 people to make a game like God of War or Final Fantasy. It's not often that they're able to make everything feel good. Like I found that was true even in like Final Fantasy 16. But it's like all of a sudden like you get to that part where you can just hop over the fence by just pushing forward. Your character just vaults over. You're like, oh, that feels like
Mm.
the whole game needs to be that
Yeah,
way. And it's something I totally get what you're saying. That's actually what got me to, I think, stop playing Remake for a while when I picked it up. Was just I think a bunch of stuff had come out, but also I just felt a little slow. And I think I've been like I just didn't have the patience to watch the cutscenes to like push through some of these areas where you're just walking and talking. Um, came back to it and was like kind of developed that attitude you have, Barrett, where you're like, oh, it's really endearing. Like Did I love that they did it that way? No, but that's the game they made, and I'm cool with it. But the point I was trying to make is like it's like there should almost be a team of like when you're making a game that big, like a team of just 15 people or something that are just going, does everything feel good? Like when you shimmy through the wall, does it feel quick and responsive, like, or is it just a drag? Now sometimes that's like a hidden loading screen, right? Where they're loading the next area, so they make you like crawl through a corridor for 15 seconds, and you're like, why is this so slow? Why am I doing this? And a lot of games do that, but other times it's just they don't think about how annoying that's going to be to the player. But like I've played a couple games, like I thought 16 actually did a really good job of that. There was these parts where like there's a wall to crawl against, and I want to say Clive like runs really quickly down it, where another character in like 7 remake might have to shimmy or something like that. But um, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Um, it's not really a pet. It's not a huge pet peeve for me. I think I get more frustrated when there's big glitches. So I'll take like a really polished crawling through a cave for 30 seconds, where it's like, okay, the game's not crashing, no one's T-posing or anything like that, rather than bugs and stuff like that. So, but I totally get the thought on that. I am interested though. That's another thing that I'm really interested to see, like what kind of things like that they do smooth out in remake, right? We haven't gotten an idea for it so far, but there's little things that were like that were janky, like the fast travel, for God's sake, going to the chocobo stands. Like maybe you'll just be able to, have an easier fast travel system where you can just load up the map. They may have showed that in the state of play, but
There's almost an
that was
Assassin's
some.
Creed type map where it looks like you like progress further and climb something, like climb a tower to like open up the map more, you know. Um, but they're adding the chocobo with the chocobos and the fact that you can run around on those. I mean, that's going to make a lot of the running around really well too in those big
Yeah,
areas. That's going to be great.
yeah. But overall, like I'm definitely more excited than I was, which is to say a lot. Do you guys, despite all this information and how big it is and how much of that may or may not be necessary, right? Like I was looking at some of those mini games and I was like, I wouldn't have asked for that, but hell, you're gonna get your money's worth when you get this game, whether, like the card game. Like I just
I,
don't know how to play those, man. I'm just like, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to learn it. They might have Blitzball in there, and I'll give it a shot, dude.
if
Like
they
if
have
that if
Blitzball in there, oh my
have
God.
Blitzball, you just message me right away if you get to that, and just give me a warning, like say a prayer for me.
I wrote it down in my notes. It's definitely the last thing I wrote down was definitely looks worth the price. Like it's going to
Yeah,
be a $70 game whenever it comes out, and it looks like there's enough in there for me to be like, yeah, makes sense.
yeah, yeah. I think
Especially with it
so.
being such a huge chunk of the game and how long they're saying it's going to be too, how much the content they're making out of that. Like, um, I was talking a little bit to Nick before it, but like there's a lot of things that are going to have so much more context whenever they're like acted out rather than it being like text on a screen and characters moving around and stuff. It's going to be like, and I can't wait to see how like some like revelations are. Like I can't wait to see like how, when Brandon, there's some things that were in the trailer that like I can't really like call out without it being a spoiler, but like it does show somebody that is a big part of people's lives, and it's a revelation for another certain character. I mean, I don't know. I'm them doing this being like a whole acted out voiceover thing just makes it a totally new game,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to see like. And how are they going to end this one? Like, it seems like it's just where it's ending. It's probably going to be another cliffhanger that we wait for, and we wait for. We got all these mini games to last us the next 10 years until Part 3 comes out.
Oh,
They don't look like they'll get too old, but some of them probably will. But
I'm excited for the summons. Summons are such a big part of Final Fantasy. I think a lot of games and RPGs, especially JRPGs, I think probably always had those. But I got introduced to summons in games through Final Fantasy, and it was just like I can't remember the first game. It might have been Final Fantasy X, and I didn't know much about like Final Fantasy, like what the staples were, right? Like the summons, the spells, the black mages and classes that are kind of in every game. So when I played 10, it was an introduction to a lot of that, and then you see the summons, and you're like, oh, this is the coolest thing in the game. When you get Ifrit and Bahamut and stuff like that, and then you play like one other, so that gets you it got me into it. And then I play one other Final Fantasy, and you're like, oh, there's summons again. And that was before like you had all these Reddits and stuff on the internet to tell you that that's a theme. So it kind of just stumble upon that. And then find out the summons are like in every one of the games. So it's been so cool to see those evolve throughout the series. So I'm like super excited. Like that's where I got introduced to the character Odin, right? And you guys obviously know that has some significance to me. But I was like, what is this summon? Like you summon this shadowy figure and on a horse with 6 legs or 8 legs, whatever it is.
They showed him too, right? We saw Odin in the
He's
trailer.
He is, yes, he is in it, and so I love seeing the reimagining of them, and they're just always visually just amazing. Like that is something like they always put a ton of attention into. I do hope this. I hope that you can summon by some other circumstance besides it just being like, oh, it's a hard boss or something. And that was like, I get why they designed it that way. I think they kind of had to because they were so long and powerful and stuff in Remake. But the original game, they were just materia that just took a ton of magic. And it would be really cool, even if it's like you got to break some rare item, like a coin or something that you throw up in there, it shatters, and boom, now you can do one of your summons. I hope they just add options because I want to be able to summon those at will. Even if the cost is really high. Let's say it takes the whole party's magic or something. Like even if it's something crazy like that, like let me do it. But yeah, I'm so excited.
Think it'll be like one big move, or like you'll get to control the character?
I assume it's gonna. I've assumed it's gonna be like it was in Remake, right, where they hang out in the battle for that duration and you issue commands, and then they do their big finisher once their GOG has depleted. It would be cool though if they added some layers to that. I would love to be able to like level up and unlock new moves for the summons or something, which is probably asking way too much. Just how much animation work.
There was basically a skill tree. No, but I mean, how much is on that?
Yeah, well, right. How far can you go? I can dream, right? So like, yeah, so I'm super excited to see that and stuff. God, they're teasing me with Vincent though. So Vincent's just the coolest character, right? Like I don't know if he's my favorite. Like if I could only have one character, but he's definitely the coolest. Like I like no argument there. But I'm really scared that they might not make him playable, and he'll just kind of be supporting. And that's not the end of the world. Like that's splitting hairs. But damn it. That's like just dangling the coolest. He turns into a monster and stuff, dude. Like he is such a cool. It showed his mansion though. That's when you get him in the original game. So anyway, I'm just interested to see what they do with him. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take a little restroom break, boys. I will be right back if you guys want to continue. Yeah. If I could hold it, I would, but I'll be right back.
No, you're right.
I definitely like the summons in the first game, but that's something I've got to do a little more. I think I've got to do a little more research on because I don't think they do a good job of explaining how that works.
Yeah, you're right. They don't.
or just how materia in general works. Like I know that Shinra creates it, or at least they create their own, but like. I don't know if it's ever explained. It's like, okay, just because you have this orb, like now you can use, lightning or fire. But I don't. Yeah, within the lore, I don't know exactly how all that works. So I definitely got to do a little more research on all that.
That's a really good point. I want to say that they do explain more about it in the Rebirth that's coming out. There's a specific part they've alluded to that I remember where there's a character that talks a lot about like what they're doing to the earth and stuff like that. So I don't remember it precisely, but I know they get a little bit more into the fact that they're pillaging like the spirit of the earth and forcing it into like a manufactured form that can be used for convenience. And I think the same thing is true for the summons. But we know what's interesting is like in the original game, they really don't touch on it too much. It's like all of a sudden you just have this deity in your inventory that you can summon, and it's like a god.
Yeah.
So I hope they do. To your point, yeah, I don't remember them ever doing a great job with explaining, what summons are in the context of Final Fantasy's story or Final Fantasy VII's story. But in a
7.
lot of the but in a lot of the other games, that's another reason I love the summons is, they're like a central part of the lore. Final Fantasy VI had where like the main character was like a summoner, and I think they were called espers. I don't know if they call them that in 7 or not. But yeah, they're such a big part of the story. And then Final Fantasy 16, basically the whole game is built around whatever they call them, icons in 16. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what you find on that, Brandon. And then I'm also curious what they show if they give more background on like what materia is when Rebirth comes out, because you're right, they don't. There's not a ton of commentary. Maybe there is. Maybe I just didn't notice it. But I mean, Barrett, do you remember like the materia, just like the fires and ice and stuff? That's not too hard to grasp. It's just like energy of the earth, and they kind of put a special flavor in it. But like Brandon made a good point about how they don't give a ton of context on like, hey, why why is there like this deity all of a sudden here, and how did that even happen? And so I thought that was a good point. Do you remember any context on that? That's not spoiler.
Like where they come from, pretty much, like their back. I don't know if there's a lot of focus on the backstory of summons in 7.
Yeah.
Um, it might be, something that you find that's like textual in the original. That's like, you're going through the mansion or whatever and finding books that say things, but um, I don't think that their involvement was like, because they're like you were saying, there's some games that have really leaned into like what they mean, and there's some big like even like Final Fantasy X and how they aid the summoner. She's the summoner, so like they kind of come to her aid. Like um, they all kind of. I don't think in 7 that they really like reveal too much of it, but I would believe that they're probably some sort of being that deals with I can't remember what it's called, but like the force of Final Fantasy VII. What are they? The life
A
stream.
live stream?
They're
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably something to do with the life stream. Like um, they also
I could make something up. I
you got
like the
what you got
direction
some
Barrett's
lots.
going.
Yeah, like I don't know. I would imagine that that's probably what they're to do with. It's like some sort of like force that can be pulled through the live stream and be present and then kind of go back into the earth. Maybe it's like all a part of that.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that I think for me that does extend to just materia in general, because it's like I said, it's pretty easy to grasp how it's like how this energy from the earth could be contained. But like it's like, okay, so now I got this fire orb, but how exactly can you actually use it? You just hold it and now you've got this power, or
In
there
Crisis
are
Core,
answers.
there's materia experiments. Like you'll even get to experiment with materia in like a lab type setting. So that'll talk about a little bit of it.
okay.
But there is some explanation to like how materia is created and how they change it and fuse it and all that stuff.
Yeah. and you'll see some of that too in Advent Children. There's one scene in particular where I think they show someone in real time using materia in a movie, like in the sense of how it could be portrayed in a movie, which is really cool. I won't say anything else about that, but yeah, that's a good point. I remember being confused about that in the original game. It's funny you mentioned that, Brandon. So like now I've had all these years of like extra lore to provide some context. But the original game, like you don't even see it showing up on Cloud's sword. At least I don't think you could. In the remake, I don't know if you noticed, but the materia you equip to the sword shows up, which I thought was
Changes
a
the color.
great, yeah, was such a
Mhm.
great touch. I was like, that's awesome. And I
I think
probably
in the
does it for
original it
other
just had the
weapons.
green lights, right? It did it even have the
Yeah.
two green dots? It was just two green dots, right?
I don't remember, but I do remember at one point I had like 20 pieces of materia equipped to a character, and I was thinking, where is this applied? Like, how does this work? Like, is it a
I'm
pill?
looking at the
Like, are
original,
they?
like the old cuts or the old home screen right now, and it's just the Buster Sword there, and it's just two black
Uh-huh.
dots, like two empty holes.
Oh,
So I think
so
that's what it
sad.
was in the original, and it didn't
Well,
may not have filled them
and
in.
if they were their own like standalone like game like part of it, it'd be understandable. But like they actually, I mean, it's actually part of the lore. Like they actually mention it in conversation, like with with intermission and with intergrade. Like that's like Yuffie's whole goal is like to infiltrate Shinra to get materia, and it's just yeah, it's always been kind of mysterious how it's actually used.
Hey,
Um,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I just dropped it into the Twitch chat, but
Oh,
um,
yeah.
yeah, I had forgotten about this. I've never read it, but there's it's from Square too, but there's an official Materia Ultimania guide. I think you can get it like Barnes and Noble. I just shot a link over, but now you're making me curious to read what's actually in that. But I know there is a lot of lore to the materia because, including the summons, because I think I want to say the summons. I don't remember where this was, but I want to say at one point the summons they explained that they were like deities of the earth and been taken from the life stream, or something like that and stuff. But yeah, the games don't always get into a lot of that lore. It's almost like the lore is the Final Fantasy series itself, and it's not as much about like what it does in that world. But I would love it if they did get into that though. If there was a specific side quest or something about earning that materia, and they explained that it's some old god that has been around for hundreds of thousands of years or something in the world, that would be super cool.
Yeah.
And then to tie that back to the state of play today, that was like one of the things that stood out was the mention of black materia.
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious what that means or what that entails.
That scene, it shows a scene whenever it talks to the talks about the black materia, and it's Cloud's hand going through like a veil, and Sephiroth's like kind of like frozen there. I'm pretty sure that's like the first time you see Sephiroth or one of the first times. It's in that state that you see Sephiroth one of the first times actually in seven. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we're gonna get to that point and see a new version of it, but I can't say too much about the original without spoilers.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's so hard to work around.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing. I just Googled it to see if it's what I thought it was, and yeah, I don't want to say anything about it, because
Yeah,
it's
it
pretty
is a big
significant.
part. It's very significant.
It's
Um,
so no. Go ahead.
what y'all think about Sailor Suit Barrett? I
That
know
was
y'all saw it.
that was funny.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I can't. You could not see it.
I
What did
loved it. It was so ridiculous.
I? My main thing was trying to figure out like what's new madness and what's original madness, because there are things like Cloud in the dress, right, in remake, where you're like, okay, that's super absurd, but like you appreciate it. It was absurd back in the day, but you know, even now you're like, what? Whose idea was this? But it's special because it's in the original. I was trying to remember if Barrett wore a sailor suit at any point in the original game, and that
I
I
don't
can't
remember
remember.
it. I don't
Either
remember it.
way, I love it. They could do anything.
If
They could
seeing
put
it like that
Elmo in there.
would have erased it from my memory though, because that just outshines anything that they could have done
Yeah,
with the old models.
I'm
but
But
that is
curious.
great.
I'm curious if something like that's like something we can change, or if it's just
Hmm.
like tied to the specific missions or something.
I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, dude, they can have costumes because I got some special requests. You know,
more than just one, like Final Fantasy 16.
yeah. I mean, it'd be awesome to see, you know, games, costumes that you can unlock that are inspired by other games in the series or that are inspired by Advent Children or something like that. But
Or like
overall,
if you could
I
play
just,
as like an old model of Cloud, like if you could switch them
I
all
was,
and play
yes,
as the old models.
that would be
Just it,
great.
I mean, it'd be crazy looking, but it'd be fun to do. I feel like I would
Yeah,
enjoy that. Like I enjoyed using like the comic suit from in
yes.
Spider-Man.
But, you know, Brandon, to answer your question, it probably is a scenario where they're wearing that, just like the soldier armor I think that they had on. I'd say I doubt that you're going to get to wear it outside of those specific events or whatever. But then again, you know, I have no idea. They might add a ability to put those back on. I mean, why not? So yeah,
They showed like one of my favorite Turks from that I recognize more from Crisis Core. I don't remember if she was in 7, but it's Cisne. She's got pink hair, and there's one point where in the trailer, like she sees Zack and she's like, "It's you," and like they recognize each other for a moment, and she was like one of the Turks, and she doesn't even look like she's in a Turk outfit, so that's what's kind of confusing about it. But just seeing her show back up, like she was a big part of Zack's story too, especially up to the end of Crisis Core. Um, she's in the DMV will or whatever. Um, but I liked seeing her. It was cool to see a familiar face from that I don't remember being in 7. Um, and I didn't mention Zack and Aerith's reunion since we were live, but Zack and Aerith's reunion on where he's like, it looks like she's laying unconscious, and he picks her up. And he's like wiping away her face. Like that's when I messaged into the group and I said I'm crying. Like I can't wait to see what they do with that. It's gonna destroy me.
got a question from the chat if we want to
I
jump to
saw
that
that
for a
too. Yeah.
second. I think it's a great question. Thanks, Snore alert. Sorry, I don't have my glasses. Um, top 3 characters from the original for y'all. So Brandon, you might be a tiny bit excluded from that one. Sorry.
Yeah.
But if you've got some that are your favorite that you've seen, definitely throw that in there. But Barrett, I'll start with you. What are your top 3? Who are your mains?
Red 13. I gotta think. I liked Reno a lot. I really liked Reno. I just like he was so like I think well maybe not from the original, but I liked him from Advent Children. I really liked where they put him with Advent Children. That made me recognize him more. From the original, it'd probably be Zack wasn't in it enough for me to say it. Tifa, Barrett, and Red 13. Red 13 he was so cool. Like just the design of him was always so cool. Barrett, I mean, obviously, it was the only for the longest time. It was the only thing that I'd ever heard my name in, like, or only person I'd shared my name with for the longest time until I finally met someone named Barrett. And he was just like, a raging. I loved all of his text in the original game where it's like just a bunch of symbols to signify like random cuss words he's saying.
Yeah.
It's very vibrant to like not have voiceover. What about you, Nick?
So first, when the question got asked in the chat, I was thinking playable, but now you've made me think about a bunch of others. But I think Vincent is the first character that comes to mind. It's just super cool, and the fact that Vincent was optional in the original game. I don't think that's going to be possible or make sense for the Rebirth, with the cutscenes and everything to make him optional. But that was also something that made it like a treat. Was not only is he the coolest character to me, and that you had this really cool backstory too, which I won't touch on at all. But that I will say you find him in a coffin in a mansion. Was so awesome, and it was a work to get him unlocked too. So yeah, he was one. Red 13, absolutely. I don't think Red 13 was one of my favorites at first, but once you get to his story, which will be really shown in Rebirth, and that's I was gonna say we'll have to come back to that, but that's something I'm most excited for out of all the parts we're gonna get to see is the whole Red 13, I guess, chapter in his area or his area of the map and stuff. So yeah, those two, and then Sephiroth. If we're just talking characters, I think Sephiroth has just always been One Winged Angel. His song is just like one of the best pieces of music ever. It's so awesome. So yeah, those are mine. Brandon, what about you? Which characters do you really favor, or are you really excited about? You mentioned some earlier, but yeah.
Yeah. Um. I, Red 13's definitely up there. Um. I'd say Tifa, but not for the reason probably most people do. But I just thought the contrast of all these other characters having weapons and she's the only one that's like hand to hand combat, being the
Hmm.
smallest character. And then I don't know. In remake I really like how they brought Sephiroth in because it was so ominous. But I think I think I'd have to go with probably Rude. I liked him and the glasses, like that whole
Yeah,
stick.
he
Yeah,
just like puts on new glasses,
dude
breaks
hits
his
hard
glasses, and
too.
has new ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
No, great question though.
Vincent is an honorable mention for me too. Like he would make the fourth spot. He is so cool. Like just down like looks alone, yes, but how you find him and how he ties in, like, is just so cool.
Yeah.
Based on looks alone, I can tell he'd probably be there, but yeah, I'm curious how he fits in. Snore Lunch is saying probably Barrett, Vincent,
Hmm.
and Kate Sith for me.
Yeah.
I
Hey, two of those are good choices.
I'm genuinely curious how Kate Sith fits into this because,
Oh yeah, I bet you are.
like I
I
said,
bet you
that was
you're
like
up too.
that
Yeah.
that was
So
the
is
one
everyone else.
moment. That was the one moment in remake where like he just flashes across the screen for like 5 seconds and it kind of
What
takes
does
you
he
out of
do
the
with the
moment
cat?
because
Dude,
it kind of pulls you out because I'm like, okay, what was that?
oh,
And they're
right
not
out.
and they're not even going to explain it or
Yeah.
mention it
Nope.
again.
Nope. But they
then
give you like a weird cat and a weird dog right there at the end of the game for you to be like, all
Dude,
right, like they were all
but
people that were, and this is
dude.
all normal, and now we're getting weird.
yeah, and like I said, that was one of
It's
those
so
things where
true.
they just like expect you to kind of know some of it going in.
Yeah, that was
But
definitely.
part of that too is
Dude, no.
just the idea that it is broken into three games. So like I'm sure there's part of
Mhm.
that that's just inevitable.
Dude, the Kate Sith will never make sense. And it makes less sense the bigger the universe gets. Because, like we were saying, we're still trying to figure it out. I'm pretty sure they were developing Rebirth and they were like, wait, what? Who is he again? Where did he come from? Like, are you putting him in the game again? They're like, well, we put Cloud in a dress. We kept that. We probably should keep the animatronic Moogle with the zipper on its back with a cat on its head. Like, it's never made sense to me. That doesn't mean I don't like it or that it doesn't belong in the game. But dude,
I think it definitely has something. It'll have something to do well with the story. Like it's gonna make sense of the story. It is a ridiculous character though, but
it is.
why he's
But that
there, I
makes it
think, will
great.
play into the.
Mm.
Uh, I I can't say too much.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that
But
that's
wait, let's.
already more information than I had. I didn't know that that it was robotic. I thought
Yeah,
it.
I won't say anything else. It doesn't mean it'll make sense, though. I promise you. The fact that you realize it's a robot will probably make less sense um, as you watch anything until they cover that part of the lore. But there's so much funny stuff that they could take full advantage of that character, though, and just do some hilarious cutscenes. Like I can totally imagine it. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's great. But no, those are so yeah. No, those are some good characters.
that was a good
I was
question.
gonna ask you. Yeah, I was gonna ask y'all something, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, I know what it was. I know what it was. So like, let me know if this is like a stupid question or whatever. Fine, but this is something like I really like. I love PlayStation, right? But PlayStation 5 has been really great because like the controller to me is like awesome, right? But like when they do those haptics, the vibrations really well, like from the first party PlayStation games and the triggers and everything. I love that stuff. I was genuinely excited when they did like a little sizzle reel in the state of play to show what those features are going to be, and they're kind of the same stuff now that PlayStation 5's been out for several years, but I just love seeing when they integrate that. Does that stuff at all like? Do you guys get excited about seeing those features, or is it pretty kind of like whatever?
I'll be honest, I don't really fully understand all the haptics. Like, I haven't studied all the features to the controller enough, but I've noticed that there are games that, like, it gives me resistance in the triggers for different things, or, like, the vibrations a little bit more, like, shifts a little bit more through it. But it doesn't change too much for me. Because, like, honestly, like, I can't remember what game it was that I was playing. It kind of does it a little bit in 60. Oh, it's uh, Hogwarts Legacy. The way
Yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy has like some of that resistance in the triggers, I honestly didn't like it. Like it,
Hmm.
I don't know. It kind of like I felt like I was fighting something whenever I did that because I just
That
didn't
makes sense.
fully understand what it's supposed to be doing. And I'm like, I just want to press the trigger, and it's like resisting the press. Like I don't like that.
Mm,
But
okay,
um,
that's fair.
yeah, that's kind of my look on it. Like I guess it's just because I don't understand exactly what it's doing with each game.
Mm,
It's showing me what it was. See, like that was more information than I had for like a game like Legacy because it was showing when
mm,
you're getting like why it's doing certain things. Like if I had watched something like that for Legacy, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But it does get me excited. I like that they're putting in like that much focus. It's getting the full PlayStation 5 treatment.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's pretty cool. But I mean, it doesn't sell it for me. The game's already sold. It's like, oh, cool, it's got that
Yeah.
stuff too.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah, for me, something like Astro's Playroom, like obviously
Mm,
takes advantage of it. I mean, that's the whole reason that's built is to use it. but yeah, there's only been a few instances that I can really recall where like I'm there's only a few instances I can recall where it's been useful. Like I'm not opposed to it. I wish more developers would use it. And it seems like a lot of that's going to come from first party games. Like you're probably not going to get much from third party just because PC or Xbox doesn't have that, or they have different features. But the only two instances I've really come across where it seems like it's added to the experience is in something like um, Gran Turismo,
Yeah, that's a good
just
one.
because it
That would
does
make
feel
sense. Yeah.
different based on like what gear you're in, um,
Hmm.
or just different areas or different weather conditions, whatever it is. Like it actually makes it feel like you're like that's affecting the car you're driving. And the other one is in, I think it was, I don't know if it was the newest one or if it was last year, but in NBA 2K, like throughout the basketball game, like your character's fatigue over time, and the triggers are turbo buttons. And so like the more fatigue you have, the harder it is to push turbo. So it's like harder to push yourself or harder to run faster. So like instances like that are the only time that I can recall that has felt like it's added to the game. But yeah, I'm always welcome to it being implemented more.
Hmm.
I appreciate those thoughts on that. I think I get excited about that. Like it to me, it just reminds you more that like you're getting like a custom built experience for the machine you're playing on. And I think that like I like that they remind you that like, hey, you have these features with this console. We built it for it, and you're going to get all the bells and whistles for this. So that just kind of drove my hype further. Not to where I was like, oh my god, the controller vibrates like. But I was looking at it going like, okay, cool. Like they thought of everything. Like we already know we're going to get like lightning fast load times and stuff like that. And the graphics are going to be great and all that. But it's just nice seeing that for me. Just like a reminder that it's going to have these features and stuff like that. So I was just curious what you guys thought.
Like I said, I'm never gonna like turn it down, but
Hmm.
I'd say there was a time I would get excited for something like that, but I think I think part of that is that excitement's kind of been killed a little bit because it doesn't get like it seems like the longer like the further into the life cycle of the console like stuff like that starts getting used less instead of
Hmm.
more. I mean that was one of the initial things with the PS4 was just having the touchpad on it, and it was
Yeah,
like
you're right.
there when it launched there was like 10 or 15 games that used it really well or like used it in a creative way, and then it's just like it got dropped as far as like it being some kind of feature. Like, yeah, it's still used for like bringing up mini maps or bringing up maps or something like that. But like that's like the default function now. Whereas like certain games you could actually touch certain areas of it or swipe in certain directions, and I don't know. I think just over the course of the life cycle of the consoles, that gets used less, and that just kind of killed some of the excitement for me. So anytime I see a new gimmick like that, it's like it enters my mind as like, okay, this is going to be used as a fad for like a little while, and then it's going to be gone or it's going to be forgotten. So I guess just my expectations are tempered more a little on the conservative side. But I'm like I said, I'm always welcome to it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That touchpad, I forget that's there. When that thing respawns, I'm just like, what? Like, I think Hogwarts Legacy actually used it for some of the menus if you wanted to, and I was like, I would never, I will never use that. It's always going to be slower. Um, do I want them to take it away? No, because I like that they have options on like how they develop the games and stuff, and like something like Astro's Playroom, I think might have done some cool effects with that. I'm not sure, but But the haptics, yeah, I have noticed that you've got to. It's got to be like a first party PlayStation or PlayStation exclusive to get any love for those features. But I will say, like Final Fantasy 16 gives me hope because I don't know if you've noticed it, Barrett, but like every cutscene, like every footstep, I'm pretty sure pulses through the controller. So even when you're not playing, like I know at one point one of the characters gets punched in the face, and the controller gives you like really good feedback, and you almost forget about it, and just kind of like delivers impact to the scene. But I mean, not to make like a huge deal out of the fact that the controller vibrates, but I just think it's got a really good sense of feedback in the controller. So we'll see.
I think
Um,
the only thing I can remember it doing in 16 that I can think of right off the top of my head is opening the doors. That's all
yeah,
I think about.
that's the only thing they use those triggers for sure. I was like, why did they
Yeah,
even put that in there? It was like Sony was like, hey, you got to do something with a
yeah.
controller.
No loading screens.
Uh,
Well, we're gonna make you open a door.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You at least got
exactly.
to do that.
Um, yeah, what else from the state of play did we cover?
Um, I mean, I don't know what of the mini games that it showed. I keep bringing this up, but like
Hmm,
any of those that stood out to you guys the most? I mean,
yeah.
like, what's the first spout off about those? Because I was actually like, I'm never impressed by mini games and stuff like that. It's not what I want to do. But a lot of those looked actually fun, and I know there's probably not going to be any sort of why would there be a multiplayer aspect to it, but a lot of like there was like a part where they're all riding around on motorcycles or everyone's on a chocobo, and I'm like, this would be the prime opportunity for someone to just be able to pick up a controller and play it with me, you know?
Good idea.
I'm not getting my hopes
Um,
up on that, but it would be
no,
cool.
I wouldn't, but it would be cool. I don't know. I'm looking up kind of. I'm trying to remember more of them, so I'm looking them up real quick. But
For me, it was
um,
like the little like the brawl mini game with the like the classic character skins and stuff.
Yes.
That was the one that stood out the most. I mean, I didn't play the original, but still, there's a like an endearment toward like anytime like you utilize like older older designs like that
Hmm.
or older art styles, anyways.
I know they show off
um,
one from the
sorry, go ahead.
original that was. I'm sorry, Nick. I was gonna just touch on
No, no, no. Go ahead.
the where all the Shinra troops are like doing all their form poses, and it's like a timed. You got to hit like the combination of buttons right on the right time, and it'll be fun to see how possible that is in the remake because it was very difficult in the original.
Yeah. Okay. So my thoughts on the mini games. Half of them have me genuinely terrified. The card game. Like, I'm not kidding. Like
Yeah.
I had wells of anxiety, and I had to just like counsel myself and just be like, it's okay. You don't have to get 100% in this game. I was like, just calm down. You don't even have to play it. You don't have to play Gwent. You don't have to play Blitzball. It's gonna be fine. Chill the fuck out. Like, so yeah, that was
Well,
that
you
was
do
kind
have
of
to
what
play
happened.
Blitzball.
Well, yeah, like I do now, but you have to do it just enough to suffer, and then
Yeah.
get out, and then never return, or try to return to it and fail every time. In my case, but so like there was like the card game, and then God, what was the other one they showed? 1 second, I just had it. It was the card game. Oh yeah, it was the card game and the piano where she was playing piano to the cats. So I'm not musically talented at all, and I'm not. I don't know if you have to be, but I just know I'll be terrible at those, and it'll take me way more effort than the average person to understand how they work and how to be good at them. And it's just like I'm just full stupid with some of that stuff. I don't know how my brain just doesn't make it work. So that was that. So that's the bad news. Then, but overall, like generally speaking, like really excited for how much they have in there. I'm just like, this is a ton of great content. They put a lot of time into it, and it's going to give a lot of breaks in case anything else in the game gets repetitive. So like that's good news for me because I can get bored. But the ones that got me excited was a lot of the stuff at the Golden Saucer, which will probably be later in the game. But there was one where they showed you turn into a frog. Now,
Yeah.
dude, okay, for a second that gave me PTSD because turning into frogs in the original Final Fantasy could just be a living hell. If
Toad
you
was
didn't have
awful. Yeah.
it was a Princess Kiss or whatever it was that was
Yeah.
like the item to remove it. So yeah, you just turn into a
Mhm.
frog and do 1 damage for like what 45 minutes or something. But so yeah, I for a little freaked out when I saw them turn into a frog, and then I was like, then I saw they were doing some kind of jumping mini game race, and I
Yeah.
was like, that actually looks fun and funny.
It looked like
And
Mario
I
Party.
wondered, yeah, that's a great point. All the mini games look like really good, like Mario Party
Mhm.
games. So that's the
That's what
one
made
I'm
me want
excited
another
for.
controller with it. It was like it just made me give me Mario Party vibes for
Yeah,
sure.
that's a great comparison. So yeah, that frog one looks fun, but I'm interested to try all of them, and I'm more just curious how good the rewards are for beating them. I bet there'll be some good stuff, good accessories and weapons and whatnot. So yeah,
I'm curious if there's going to be any kind of workout mini games.
Most definitely.
I hope so.
I both loved and hated those from Remake, like the squat
Hmm.
competition and then the pull ups.
Hmm.
Like there were, I mean,
Yeah, preach.
I think I ended up. I mean, I beat those. I know I beat like the squat one like within one setting. I beat like all levels of it. But I had to go back to the pull up one several times because it was just like you couldn't make a mistake. And so I mean, I both loved and hated those just because they were kind of absurd, but challenging to the point of like being irrationally angry at something. Just why is this so difficult?
Yeah, yeah. That touches back on that clunkiness of some of Final Fantasy and particularly the remake. Like I think the part that really drove me crazy was when Tifa does like the monkey bars or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
in that one sequence, and I was like, this is giving me anxiety. Not because you can't do it, but just the amount of time it takes, and if you turn the character around, it's like a 5-second animation. Oh, I messed up. I got to watch this cutscene now. Let me turn back around. I know that's being like way too impatient about it, but it'd be nice if they make that a little bit more responsive in the
Well,
next game.
they actually. I mean, I'm guessing you're talking about where she's actually like going across the ceiling in the
Yes.
Shinra building. Well, like
Uh-huh.
yeah, that was definitely frustrating. Like there's that one, and then I think Cloud does it in the church.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he does. Yes.
but they are so slow, and I'm like, why is this? It felt like it took forever. Like now, Cloud's being shot at while he's doing it, and I'm like immersion wise, like how is this guy not dead? Because it takes forever. But with the Yuffie mission, like they fixed that because like there's a few sequences where like she's got to climb like the side of one of the reactors or something. Or there's like several different sequences where like she has to climb or something, and it's so fast. Like she just like sprints
Mm,
across everything. I'm like what? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it was just a stylistic choice that they did it for her, or like it's like okay, they need more of this and less of the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it sucks when you're some of those parts you're playing by yourself, but then it's funny and you end up laughing about it when you remember it. But yeah. What are you guys unless y'all had another thought, but like what's the thing you're most excited for? Like, I mean, the game in general, but is there like something specific you saw or you've been thinking about that you want to, you know, experience or see?
I'm
Or,
just
or if you
curious.
got multiple, just list them all, man.
I'm
I feel
just
like a
curious
broken
how
record
like
saying mine. So.
yeah. I just want to see how like the characters develop. I mean,
Hmm.
like I
Hmm.
said, I haven't I haven't seen one that I've disliked, so like I'm curious how their each of their stories end. But which speaking of, in the trailer, I'm curious who this one character is. That, like he looks like he's got like blue skin with like a bone mask.
He almost looks like
Yeah, I know who you're talking
He looks really
um
cool, but I'm curious who that is.
he looks like some of Tool's art
Yes,
from the last album from Fear
yes.
Inoculum. Looks like the guy on the cover almost.
And he's just like floating around like while he's talking
Mhm.
to the group. I'm really curious who he is and how he fits in.
Yeah. I, Bear,
I'll
maybe
be
you
honest and
maybe
say
you
I don't
remember.
know. No, I don't. I don't remember.
Okay.
Um, to me, that looked new, and that might be, the magic of this new remake. But I don't remember it exactly.
I have
It
a
does. I think they have
yeah.
something to do with the black materia, um,
Hmm.
just based
Hmm.
on where they were in the cutscene. Um, but I'm not totally sure on that.
Yeah,
And I'm
I'm definitely not sure either. The thing that stuck with me was like some of the colors in the scene reminded me of Red 13's kind of town or area of the map. And then that character, he did look really cool. He looked kind of tribal. And something that I remembered from the original, but it's really foggy, is there was some lore about like tribalism or natives of that area of Red 13's map. So that's kind of what I maybe pieced together, but it could be completely unrelated. It could be a brand new character. Um, and that's a part of the game that's maybe like an hour or two out of 40 hours. So and then you don't go back there that I recall in the original. Um, but yeah, that's a
and
that
then
was a
we've
cool character.
we've touched on it a little bit already, but I'm curious to see all the different synergies too. Like
Yes.
I've got the trailer pulled up, just kind of like going back through certain sections of it. But like just looking at the comments for the video, like half of them are talking about it being cool how when Aerith and Barrett team up, like she puts on glasses to like go through the sequence.
I didn't even notice
That's
that.
so cool. I didn't see that. That's awesome.
But their synergy did stand out the most to me. I love that he's charging up the shot, and it seemed like she used her magic to like put more power behind it or something.
Yeah, before it both
Um,
does that, they like turn back to back and like they both like pop on glasses real
uh,
fast.
I'm gonna have to rewatch
That's
that.
awesome. Yeah, me
That's
too.
so
I'm
cool.
gonna watch this several more times.
Oh yeah.
The trailer.
And then I
Going
don't
back to your
know.
question, then.
Go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So I was just gonna. I was gonna go back to the question of like the most excited for thing. So if you want to keep going on that thought, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say from a character standpoint too. Like I only know Sid from Kingdom Hearts, so I'm kind of curious
Yeah.
how like what kind of character he actually is outside of Kingdom Hearts.
Do you remember what
Hmm.
he was used for in Kingdom Hearts One? Do you remember like his situation in Kingdom Hearts One?
Yeah, he
Like,
gives you like pieces of the gummy ship, right?
right. They're like an airship.
Yeah.
He's a talented
He
guy.
kind of he serves a similar purpose. I feel like in it parallels pretty well, but Sid showing up, just being in the trailer, like it kind of just reminded me, and I got really excited to uh, see more of him. I like Sid. I didn't hear his voice, but it would be nice if they got the same voice actor from Kingdom Hearts to play him.
Remind me to ask you a question about Sid and the airship in a minute. I don't want to ask it right now. I want to hear the rest of y'all's thoughts.
Um, well, the favorite thing from the trailer that like stood out the most was um, just seeing more of Zach. and seeing where that's going to go.
Mhm.
I'm delighted to know that we're going to get a what if he survived the events of Crisis Core and move forward with it a little bit. It makes my like 16-year-old heart swell.
Well, speaking of him, I was looking at the comments on this on like the YouTube video for the trailer, and because I think in the trailer the only scene I know he's in it a few times, but I think the only scene where we see him interact with other people is when he's holding Aerith, and like
There's another one.
okay, somebody
There's
somebody made a comment that says seems like everybody may be dead in Zach's timeline. So like just for shits and giggles, like what happens if like he lives but now everybody else dies like in his timeline?
Well, there is a shot of like everyone being loaded into like a Shinra helicopter or vehicle where it looks like
Yeah.
Tifa's on like a bed, Barrett's on a bed, and someone else are getting loaded into like a Shinra thing. And they
Yeah,
look unconscious or whatever, but it does seem like this alternate timeline is like Cloud or Zack shows up to back to Midgar and Cloud's unconscious on his shoulder and I don't know how much it clashes with the events of 7 because there is a bit of a time jump at some point in Crisis Core, so it could catch up to events. But they would have explaining to do if they did that. But there's another scene in the trailer where Zack interacts with Sephiroth, and Sephiroth's like going up steps, and Zack says something to him, and
yeah.
Sephiroth turns around and says something, and it looks like he slashes Zack, but Zack's like off the screen, but he like slashes upward. So that was interesting.
I don't I don't know if he played him in the original game, but it looks like Matthew Mercer is voicing Vincent.
Vincent. Yeah. No, he did not. That's a really cool new casting. And he sounds good. It would have been too much to get Rick Gomez to come back and play Zack, but it is what it is. I'll be fine.
I guess, man. I will tell you, I watched some short clip that showed the voice comparison, or it was a graphical comparison, but of course they had the audio too between the version. And I went from being very comfortable with old Zach to then they did new Zach's voice, and I was like, this is awful. Like it's not good, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I'll have to
No.
get over it. But
Yeah.
that's not even because of what you said. It was just like, what? This guy's performance, his sound of his voice is just grating. And then old
I
Zach
think
sounded cool, and
yeah, yes. Imagine
yeah,
them
I
changing Master Chief's voice after all these years,
yeah,
Like,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
in a way they did by you know. I mean, I know you kind of want to act like that doesn't exist, but
The
I mean,
show?
yeah.
Oh, we don't
no,
know. It doesn't exist.
I,
No, no, no,
that,
no.
I was
that,
gonna say they took his
yeah.
whole suit away from him.
I don't even want to talk about it, dude. I don't.
That's that's a
We're talking
subject
about
for
Final
a
Fantasy today.
yeah.
That
We
part
do
that doesn't
need to
even
unpack that.
exist. Yeah,
We
we're
do
not.
need to save that. Put a pin in that. I would love to talk about that. I'm not
Well,
even a
No,
big Halo fan, and I got thoughts on it.
no. Well,
Um,
like with the voice comparison with Zach, it doesn't help that not on like I wish it's probably a closed-minded way of thinking about it, but I wish that he would have just reenacted the same cadence that the original Zach did. He could have a newer voice, but like recite those lines as if it were a play, and you do it the same way every time. Like, because there's one. Think it should. I can't remember if it was something I watched earlier today, if it was actually shown in that. But there's a part where it's at the end of 7 where Zack puts the sword up to his head and he's like, embrace your dreams and whatever you do, protect your honor. And he's like, as a soldier. Well, the way he says it in that, like, I can't even take it seriously because it was so much heavier in the original, it felt like. And the way he's like, he takes a deep breath and he says it, and he says, and protect your honor. As soldier! And he doesn't say as a soldier, he says as soldier, because soldier is the whole division that he's in Shinra. Like, and I don't know, he wasn't being a soldier, he was embodying what he thought it meant to be soldier and what you should be. And it's just them changing things like that, just like, it hurts, man. But I'm not gonna like the character less, but it does
No.
genuinely fucking hurt. Like, I couldn't tell you, like, it took me like 2 or 3 weeks to finally start playing Crisis Core from the moment it came out. I was so excited about it. I didn't even realize that they recasted Zack for 7. He was recasted as this new guy. And I guess it just never struck me whenever I played 7 Remake. And then when Reunion came out, Crisis Core, and I heard like the first few cutscenes and it just sounded wrong. I remember my stomach just like dropping and being like, wait a minute, and like getting on my phone and like doing research at that point, and then being like, I can't do this. Like, there's no fucking way. And then the whole time I was just like, it was like hearing cutscenes like retranslated. Just everything just sounded off and wrong, but all the other characters sounded the same. I just remember being like, why the fuck did they do this? Because the guy that originally played Zack, Rick Gomez, he voices him in Kingdom Hearts 3, which is God knows how long ago he voiced that, because that game was in development for so damn long. But like, that's the most current thing that Zack's popped up in, and it was, I mean, and then it goes from Kingdom Hearts 3 to 7. Remake comes out a little after that, and it's a different voice. And from there on, they're carrying on with this new guy that just, he doesn't sound, I got used to it, but like, it ain't right.
I'm hopeful that maybe they got a different voice director or something. Obviously for Rebirth versus. So maybe they'll get a different performance out of him.
Maybe, and he's got new lines at this point. We're not going to hear.
Yeah.
It's not the same story, just told in a different voice. It's like, okay, we're moving forward, but that might make me connect with him less, because we're going to hit unfamiliar territory, and you got this guy that looks like Zack but don't sound like Zack. I just want him to have the same heart as Zack, because the original voice actor just had something to it that it made you believe him. Even as cheesy as his character is, it made you believe that he believed in himself. And this new guy is like, I don't know. I can't connect with it. It bums me out.
Fair enough. I get it.
So one question I remembered from the original, or from the remake, at the very end when Cloud and Sephiroth are talking, Sephiroth mentions he's got 7 seconds to till the end of the world. Like, what's the significance behind that, or is that a spoiler?
I think it's referencing a big part of Part 3, but faster. I don't want to ruin the end of the game, like the original game, but like, there's something that takes, is it 7 minutes? I think it's 7 or 7 days. There's something, it's the meteor. I'm looking at you, Nick.
Yeah. No, like.
Do you think it's referencing that?
Yeah, probably, but I only say it like in confidence of what you're remembering, because that part, I think I've lost it that time
Okay.
you're referencing.
There's
I think you're
definitely,
right.
at the end of the game, there's like a rush to get something, to like get to a certain point to save the world. And I think that that's another one of those moments where Sephiroth seems aware that the original events of Final Fantasy VII happened, and he's like up, like he seems like he's raising the stakes of the original ending. So I didn't realize how hard it would be to talk about some things and without like spoiling major plot points.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot
And
of big
also
twists in the original.
digging through what we remember, because I know it's been a long time for both of us since we've actually replayed it. So
Yeah. I don't know. I want to replay it, but I'm also just thinking about like watching a recap video. There's just so many good videos on YouTube now where people recap it so well, and you get everything. And sometimes they explain things that aren't explained in the game because of all their research and stuff. So it's like,
that, and
but
nowadays you can watch that alongside with comparisons to Remake, and
right.
uh,
No.
yeah,
Well, did we cover everything?
I've been sitting here looking at my notes like I've basically mentioned everything that I could think of. There was the point in the trailer where it looks like Aerith's putting on like a concert. They're like
Yeah.
singing a whole song. Like there's
Hmm.
some, and I thought that was, it reminded me of Yuna from Final Fantasy X.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I've got other notes written down, but it's also like plot points. But it showed a character named Dine in the trailer, and I'm excited for everything that comes with him. Um, he's an old friend of Barrett's.
Mm-hmm. That's a great part.
Mm.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I won't say anything else.
Yeah, that's where
It's
I'm
a good
like,
part.
there's some things like I want to talk and speculate and do all that, but and also I want to talk a lot about Crisis Core. You know it, so I'm like y'all, Brandon. I know you're playing it. Nick, you could watch some videos or something. But
I'm downloading it, man. Yeah, I might speed up the catching up on the lore by watching some videos.
Brandy said the demo has the story so far option, so
Nice.
that'd be cool to see how it sums it up. I mean, it'd be too
Yeah,
nice if
definitely.
they added the whole, you know how Final Fantasy 16 has the ATL or whatever it
Oh, I
is that
love that system.
where you can
Yes, the
pause, and
lore, active lore.
because like old Final Fantasy games have, the problem is like you get to a certain point, if you put the controller down and put the game in the background, or not, don't play it for a while and come back to, you're like, what the fuck's happened, what's going on, I don't know where I'm supposed to do. Like they've cured that in the newer Final Fantasy games with like, there's like a character you can talk to that'll literally tell you the state of the realm right now, and then you can press start at any point whenever you're in different cutscenes or in different parts of the world that like allow you to do research on everything around you and give you details about stuff that you wouldn't get through a cutscene or something. So I don't know how much, what if they're going to do anything like that, but like the journal, I hope it's updated kind of like that, because I did like the way they did it in 16.
Yeah, I would love it if they put that in every single game.
Hmm.
Period. Just to be able to have that concordance to bring up and be like, wait, what is this? Okay,
Yeah.
cool, got it. That's what that is. Um, because like that almost ties back to some of the stuff with the materia. It's like, God, can I pause this for a second? What is materia again? Just getting that feature. Like, I don't necessarily need a cutscene or a side quest, but it'd be great
Yeah.
to have, because there was things in 16 where you're like, I don't need like whole 10-minute cutscene to like talk about this owl, but it would be nice to understand what the heck just happened. Like, what, you just made that owl like its eyes glow or something. But yeah, that would be great. I would love to see that. I hope they do put that in. I think there's a chance they could, but I won't hold my breath.
Yeah. I'll be happy with what I'm given, I'm sure. Well, is there anything else you guys can
So
think of to cover for it?
nothing that comes to mind.
Um, well, I know that we're all planning to go see Advent Children together, um,
Mm-hmm.
a week before release. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to
Wow.
talk about that and kind of add that to some of our speculation. There's stuff also about like now that you've beat Remake, I feel like there's a good tie. And once you beat Crisis Core, maybe you can beat it before then. But
Oh, for
um,
sure.
um, there's like a few little kind of nods and tie-ins from those I'd like to talk about and just kind of, I don't know, just get a little bit more excited for, because like I said earlier, with them acknowledging Advent Children enough to put it in theaters, it just makes me think like obviously this is going to have some importance at some point. Like, um, yeah, that would be exciting. I wish we could see it in English. I wish I didn't have to like that. Like that, I was trying not to be too bummed out about that. Like, I want to see it regardless, but like, it's like the one day this month where I have like a set in stone plan. It's the only day it's playing in English. It's like, dang it.
I must be a weeb or something because I'm more excited we're seeing it in Japanese. I regret that we're not seeing it in English just because maybe you won't enjoy it as much. But I really I'm the playthrough I'm doing of Remake right now. Like the first time I played it in English, but I really like the Japanese voices sometimes. Sometimes the English voices are super annoying to me, but then you turn on the Japanese and you're like, oh, this is awesome. Um, I've never seen it in Japanese. And I don't mind uh, subtitles. Yeah, I'm excited to see it that way. But, uh, but yeah, I'm really excited to see what everyone's thoughts are. It'll be a fun topic to talk about on here after we watch it and stuff, because it's not a perfect movie. But there's a ton, if you're a fan of the Final Fantasy VII, that it's like so much fan service and getting to see the characters again, and then some awesome action sequences. So, and then this is the full edition with more scenes that weren't in the original. Now that got released like 3 or 4 years back, I want to say, but I've never seen it. But it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. The original was like with under 2 hours. I want to say I have to look it up, but there's just a lot more scenes and extended scenes and stuff. So
I have
um,
not re-watched Advent Children since like I lived at home with my parents and had it on DVD. And sometime in between now and then,
oh
that
yeah,
DVD disappeared. Like, so I
same.
cannot wait to rewatch it because it's been so long. You know, there's like key points that I remember, but it's gonna feel fresh. Um, I think the only reason I was like, I'm not overly bummed, so like it's not that big of a deal. But like the only thing about watching it with subtitles is like there is really nice action spots, and I can't remember how much conversation's happening through a lot of it, but like when there's high action and subtitles at the same time, it could take me out of it and distract me a little bit. But either way, I'm excited for it. Like it's gonna be incredible. I think I've probably watched it in Japanese once, and I don't know. I typically don't enjoy things subbed, but it's because I'm a English speaker, and it's more comfortable for me to be able to understand what's going on.
Fair enough.
Typically, I prefer subbed, like just because there's like, I mean, in anime, there's certain actions and motions that, and the way people talk that doesn't always translate well to English. But I end up watching dubbed more just because when I'm at home, like I'm usually like multitasking doing something, so it's like harder to watch subbed while you're also trying to like fold clothes or wash dishes, whatever. But like I think I'll enjoy it in theaters just because at that point I have to focus on one thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So I think we'll have a lot of fun, and I'd never seen it in theaters. That's so cool. I would have
Yeah.
loved to have seen it in theaters when I was a kid or teenager,
Hmm.
whenever it came out, but that wasn't possible for whatever reason. So now this will be really memorable, I think, and then just getting to see it with you guys. So no, it'll be cool. Then we can talk about it on here. I did have one more question, but this seems like we can save it for another episode. So it seems like probably a good spot to wrap up if that's what y'all want to do.
Yeah. We need to all play that demo. That way we can talk about it.
Yeah, that's
Next
the other part.
episode.
I'm like,
It won't be
I gotta know how to play.
It won't be tonight, but I'm definitely probably going to get on it tomorrow.
I'm not that tired yet. I think I'm going to try to play it tonight. I think I got at least an hour in me.
I think that erased my excuses, so I'm probably gonna hop on it too.
Yeah,
I can't fall too far behind.
I'm going to be spamming spoilers from the demo. Oh, look at this picture. Look at this. I won't do that. I will not do that this time.
I'm gonna get just out of context Nick reactions and be like, "Fuck, I want to play that."
Yeah.
If I didn't have to get up so early tomorrow, I would definitely do it
that's
tonight.
right.
But yeah,
Oh,
definitely
Well,
tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to mention real quick though the demos. A few fun facts, Bear, we talked about. One is okay. So the chapter that the demo is a chapter from the game. They said if you read the description on PlayStation Network, I think it says it's the opening chapter. And if you have save data for it, when you purchase the full game, it'll acknowledge that and it will let you skip that chapter if you want, or you can replay it. But essentially, it's a demo, but it's a full final chapter from the game that you get to play. So I think that's pretty cool. And then the other thing is the demo will update on the 21st to have what's it called? Barrett, what's that? Junon.
It'll add Junon.
So that'll be the open world segment, and then there'll be some adjustments to not let you go too far, of course. But if you have save data for that, you unlock like 2 accessories for the main game. I think one gives you additional resources when you I don't know, kill things or whatever.
It seems like there's might be a crafting element or a collection element to
or cooking or something like that.
Cooking, yeah, probably.
So I thought that was some cool stuff to mention. So I was excited about that. I'll probably end up replaying it from the beginning when the game comes out, but it'll be nice to have those items. So, anywho, cool. Well, guys, this was really fun to talk about. So,
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
I'm excited.
And thanks to everyone who watched and stuff. Hope you enjoyed.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel. It's linked in our Twitch. All these videos go up. This one will probably be up in another week or so. But we're trying to get through our first few episodes posted on there. But once we get caught up, we'll start posting the most recent episodes a little bit sooner. That way we can kind of stay on top of them. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
Yeah. Peace out.